to myself, because there was nobody else on here, that I thought I'd give this a shot and see what live was all about. Oh, we got a couple of them now, I guess, or maybe just one. So welcome, whatever it says, Jill's Library. Yeah, good deal. I checked out your page. You got some good stuff going on over there. Anyhow, so what I wanted to do today was see if anybody had any questions they wanted to get answered, any questions they wanted to ask me. And I was just going to mention expand a little bit on my progress report. So what happened was, I usually outline my whole story before I start. And by that I mean, my premise of an outline is, you flabbergasted? What grows? Your page? Because it's been doing good. What time is it over there? Right now it is 6:15 p.m. on January 20th. So I'm in Tampa, Florida. I think you're over in the UK, right, Jill? Yeah, that's right. Live would go anywhere. So it's a little late over there. I think you're like 5 hours ahead or something. So what I usually do when I outline something is I just kind of outline the story. So before I start writing it all, I'm looking at, let me move my stuff here. I'm looking at, do I know how my story starts? Do I know how it ends? Do I know what kind of happens in the middle? And by that I mean, look how giant hands. By that I mean, I want to have some bullet points before I start. James Patterson once said, a lot of people suffer from writer's block, and it's basically because they don't know what's supposed to happen in the story next. I agree 100%. In fact, I took his master course, right? Master class. And so many things he said in there are things that I had said to myself or to other authors. I used to work with hundreds and hundreds of other authors, new authors usually. So when I heard James Patterson say, it's a good idea to outline. Writer's block is usually because you don't know what comes next in the story. Netherlands. So yeah, it's early. It's early over there. It's like 1 a.m, right? Is that what 1300 is? I don't even know. 1 p.m. the next day? I don't know. American. We don't know how to do that kind of stuff. So I agree. So my outline is, okay, like a bunch of bullet points, and they basically become writing prompts. So here's how I do it. And everybody does it their own way. But remember, everybody's like, oh, anti-outlining because it stifles your creativity. I'm like, no. When somebody says write a story about anything, most people can't write a story at all. If they say write a story about a snowman with a hat, well, they're thinking about Frosty the Snowman. But if they say, what if you were walking down the street and you saw a dragon and there was a knight and the knight was supposed to fight the dragon didn't want to fight back? Write me 500 words about that. Just about everybody could write a story about that. Okay, so some limitations allow you to fill the box. If you just have the whole ocean, a lot of people get stifled because there's just too much. The choices are too many, too big. Okay, so when I start out with an outline, I like to refer everybody to my outline for Romeo and Juliet. It's this. Boy and girl want to get together. Mom and dad don't want them to get together. Boy and girl get together anyway. Everybody dies. That's the outline for Romeo and Juliet. 4 points. You know how your story starts, you know how it ends, and you know a couple things that happen in the middle. So you've got some very, very broad strokes. So I'll start out with something like that. I wanted my main character, her name is Jett Thacker, I wanted her to go on her next adventure. In the first one, she was a news reporter, a investigative reporter for a TV station in Miami. She gets fired from her job for reasons that weren't her fault. She was kind of scapegoated. And so now she's looking for work. And at the same time, this rich guy who lives in Colorado, his niece has gone missing. Now, what caused Jett to get fired is she was trying to have a round panel discussion news program. So her investigative reporting got her own morning show. And her ratings aren't doing great. It's like her second week, and she's trying to spice it up. She brings in a Florida congressman. He's black, and she happens to bring in a Nazi sympathizer, and they're going to have a panel discussion. And this was approved by her boss. Well, the discussion gets out of hand. The two panelists start fighting. The audience goes crazy and rushes the stage. Chairs are flying. Jett gets hit in the face with a chair. The show goes dark, and she gets brought up in front of her bosses, and they're like, what were you thinking? Staging a race riot, blah, blah, blah. And you're out of here. Even though they agreed this kind of spiciness and controversy would give them more ratings. But the politician who was on the show was the station owner's candidate for potentially being mayor of Florida, governor of Florida. So when he got embarrassed by getting in a fight with the Nazi, things kind of went sideways. They didn't want that. They said, oh, it was her fault. We knew nothing about it. And they got rid of her. Okay, so she's looking for a job. So that video goes viral. The guy in Colorado sees it. His name is Aaron Wells. He's part owner of an Orlando TV station with his sister. His sister is Ashley Wells. She's been a very famous musician. She got her own show. She's got a morning show. She's very demanding. She's go, go, go. She's got a morning show, her own channel. She's networking. She's making things happen. She's all over the place. She's a big influencer, and their brother sister. He allegedly got the boot out of the family business and sent over to do some property development in Colorado. The more you look into it, the more you find out that's not true. He was really the brains behind the operation. She was the talent, musical talent, showbiz talent. She does her TV shows and all that. She's very, very good at what she does, but he was the business end of it. And they were a great team for many, many years. However, there are some dark backstories behind this family, and they hint about that all along. So, Aaron Wells, the rich guy out in Colorado, he's looking for somebody to investigate his niece who has gone missing. The police have a body at the morgue. They're saying, the mother says, that's my daughter, that's it, show's over. And then these letters start arriving to the mother from the daughter saying, don't worry and don't look for me. And they just got done saying she was dead. The police are like, look, we have a body, somebody's messing with you, we're not, what can we do? So Aaron says, well, we'll hire somebody. And as he's looking into who can we hire to look into this, he's actually firing the prior investigator because that guy just couldn't turn anything up on where are these letters coming from. And his lawyer and his good friend bring in some videos and some resumes, and they happen to be working late at night. Aaron has 2 twin daughters. One of his daughters comes down and she goes, what's going on? He's making some coffee. He's not a coffee drinker, so he doesn't really know how to make it, kind of like me, because my wife drinks coffee, but I don't. So we have all the things here to make coffee, but I don't know how to do it. I know it's not hard, but I don't know how to do it. And that's Aaron. He doesn't know how to do it either. So his daughter comes down, hears him clanking around in the kitchen, and she basically walks through and gets it all put together for him. And he says, thanks, honey. Now, she's 16 or 17, I can't remember. She's in high school, and their favorite cousin is the girl who went missing. So she's very, very distraught about her cousin going missing and now pronounced dead. Aaron hasn't told her that, but she can tell from his body language. She starts to cry, and he's like, okay. Well, she goes, you have police coming over, don't you? And he goes, why would you say that? She goes, you wouldn't be up in the middle of the night making coffee. Nobody does that unless some bad news is coming to the door, and that's usually brought by the police when it's the missing person thing. And he's like, okay, well, go to bed. Are you going to be all right? And she's like, yeah, I'll be okay. And she starts to wonder, do you think Aunt Ashley could have had anything to do with it? She doesn't quite finish the sentence, and then there's headlights come over, like over the room. And so he looks, and it's his business associates who he's asked to come over. And he goes, what did you want to ask me? And she goes, no, it'll keep. I'll talk to you later. And she goes upstairs. So he meets with his people, and they bring him the resumes and stuff. And one of them, his trusted lawyer, brings the videotape of Jett Thacker's show where the melee is going on. And this is Aaron. Remember, his sister and him own a TV station, and they have shows. And so he's got an eye for that kind of talent. And what he sees, even though all the audience is like, look, this big race war, this big fight, she got hit in the nose. What he sees is this lady, while all this chaos was happening, she jumps in between the two guys who are fighting. She tries to get them calmed down. She tries to get it broken up, and she's succeeding with them, and they're going to be able to help her get the audience under control. And that's when she gets hit by the chair, and that's basically where the video ends. And so Aaron's got his 2 trusted advisors there, and the one advisor says, you know what, you don't need that kind of mess in your life. And the other advisor says, I think she's pretty sharp. I think this is who you should consider. And he says, she understands TV. She's exactly who we need. She's going to be dealing with my sister, and my sister is a TV personality. And so is this person. She gets it. And look at her walking through that chaos. She took control. She didn't end the fight, but she didn't run away. She didn't duck under a desk. She stood in there. She took the hits, and she tried to get that. And she was on her way to getting that situation under control when she got hit by a chair. He goes, she's exactly who we need. So he calls her up, or he has the attorney call her up. And he's in Colorado, she's in Florida, so there's like a 3-hour time difference. Abood asks, do Muslim people bother me? Some people are annoying and some people are not. It doesn't matter what religion or where they're from. Anybody can be annoying, but no, generally Muslim people don't bother me. I work with lots of Muslim kids at a school I do a young authors club at. Never had a problem with any of them. So Aaron is having his lawyer make an offer to Jett to come out. Now, she just got fired. And she had a contract, but she got fired for cause. Like, she should have known not to stage this race war. And, of course, they knew about it, her bosses, but they're pretending they didn't. And so they're not going to fulfill her contract. And they're turning around and telling her, you know what, we're even going to hold your last check for damages because we've got $40,000 worth of damage to our soundstage and everything. And so she's like, oh, my God. So she goes home and she's sulking. And meanwhile, it's being leaked that she's racist, she's hard to work with. So all over Miami, she starts checking social media, and she's everywhere getting slammed on social media by people close to Jett at the TV station where she just got fired from, saying, yeah, she's this, she's that, she's a pain in the ass. And they're just dragging her through the mud. And again, this is orchestrated by the bosses that want to get rid of her, kind of like saying, see, we were on top of this. And now, why are they doing this? Because the station is for sale. And if it's not getting good ratings, that's going to hurt the sale price. Got a note here. So cool to write a whole new world with self-made characters and story, and I'm so interested. Well, thank you. That's the whole point. Well, it's out there. You can start. The first book's out there. I'm finishing probably tomorrow the sequel. Let me get back to my story. Okay, so where was I? So the reason they threw her under the bus was because the station is for sale. They're trying to sell the station, but they want like a premium price. It's not worth that. And so that's why they did what they did. And they figured, well, if we got a problem, we've got bad ratings, we'll fire the person getting the bad ratings. We'll trash her a little bit to make it look like she was a problem. We had to get rid of her. We didn't know anything about this race war stuff. And she was hard to work with anyway. So nobody's going to really look farther than that, you know? It's kind of like that's the angle. That's the sexy, what they call the sexy angle of the story. And so that's where they're hoping it'll die. Now, Jett's not stupid. She knows that was a hit piece. She's in the business. She knows what a hit piece looks like. So she's got that, but her good friend Rico, who she works with, her producer at the station, is like, listen, why don't we get together tomorrow, take today off, go out, get drunk, do whatever you're going to do. And meanwhile, she's got a broken nose, right? She's all raccoon eyes, big swollen nose, bandage on her face and everything. And so she goes home and she's sulking and all that. Well, the kid across the hall is like a 10-year-old who's like home alone all the time. Her parents are divorced, they're rich, and Jett lives in a Miami high-rise, a really, really swanky address. If you've ever watched a TV show that had Miami, it's the one they call the Wedding Cake Building. It's what they call it, Miami Tower. It's kind of a tiered, kind of round, and it looks kind of like a wedding cake, but that's where she lives. And so she can't afford her rent. She's moved in the place. She can't afford her rent. She got no job. She got no prospects. And the kid across the hall, as Jett's carrying her box of stuff from her office, like she got escorted out by security, she's going down to her apartment. The kid across the hall comes over. Hey, Jett, what's going on? She goes, what happened to your nose? And takes Jett's keys out of her purse, opens her door for her, goes in, puts in the alarm code, plops on the couch, and they're talking. And as Jett's undoing her stuff, the kid from across the hall is like, I'm watching cruise ships today. I've been on FaceTime or whatever with her friend all day. And she's like, didn't you go to school? She goes, I decided I need to take a day off. She goes, I didn't help you study math so you could flunk out. You got to go to school. She goes, okay. She goes, promise me you'll go tomorrow. She goes, okay, I'll promise. She goes, all right, you want to hang out? I got to work on my resume. She goes, no. I left, whatever her friend's, Taylor was her friend, I think. She goes, I left Taylor on hold while I came over here to help you, so I better get back to my call. My dad says it's rude to, not even her dad says it. The housekeeper lady says it's rude to leave people on hold, so I better go back. She goes, okay, well, when you're done with your homework, you're done playing with Taylor, come over, we'll have dinner. So that's their relationship. It's like Jett is her substitute parent kind of situation there. Okay, so the next morning, Rico comes over, and they're working on her resume a little bit, and the lawyer calls from Colorado and says, we would like you to come out. Mr. Wells would like you to look into an investigation. And she's like, as much as I need money, Rico's right there. She goes, what do you think? He goes, you need to find another anchor job on network TV. You can't be running around doing this kind of stuff. And the lawyer says, well, he'll give you like $50,000 to come if for the weekend or whatever. You don't have to stay. Whether you take the case or not, the money's yours. And she's thinking, well, I'll get a couple of weeks pay out of this. I think he tells her originally, we'll pay you double your rate that you were making at the TV station. And she goes, well, I need money. And Rico's like, you need a job. You don't need 2 weeks worth of pay. That's 2 weeks you won't be interviewing. Forget it. And so then the guy says, we'll give you 50 grand just to come out for the weekend. And Rico's like, see if they need an assistant for you. So she goes out, she meets Aaron Wells, and she's heard all kinds of bad things about this guy. And when she meets him, he is nothing like what she heard. He's a very nice guy. Everybody who works for him, he's building a resort. It's phase 2 of a resort. So phase 1 is just gorgeous. It's high end. It's a beautiful restaurant, a gorgeous facility. Everything's immaculate. The bars are nice. The restaurants are nice. The shops are nice. And everybody who she runs into while she's getting ready to meet him speaks very highly and calls the boss by his first name, Aaron. Nobody calls him Mr. Wells. It's all Aaron, Aaron, Aaron. And she's like, well, that's kind of cool. I like that. And they're all, top-notch people. So she thinks, well, maybe there's a little more to this guy. So she gets up there and starts meeting with him. And she's like, I've heard that your table is been custom made to listen in on people's devices. So if I'm typing on my computer, the sensors in the table are doing keystroke reading. And if I use my phone or whatever, your conference table can sense all that, and so nothing I do here is secure. You read all my email, whatever. Is that true? And he goes, yeah. And she goes, well, that's like a felony kind of thing. He goes, well, okay, you're right. I shouldn't lower myself to that type of thing. We take the case. And she's like, wow, he just admitted that right away. It's like, maybe he's not the bad guy, although he's still a bad guy for having that table in the first place, right? So he says, let's do this. Why don't you go downstairs and have some dinner, relax, go to your room, freshen up a little, and I'll join you in a little bit. So she goes down, and he's cleaned out the entire restaurant, made everybody leave. The chef comes out with a 5-course meal for Jett. The minute she gets down there, it's a beautiful 5-star restaurant. She's the only one in the place. And she's like, wow. And the manager of the restaurant is like, yeah, Mr. Aaron insisted that we take care of you. So would you like the trout almondine with this kind of wine, this for dessert, these vegetables? And she's like, holy cow, yeah. So she's sitting there enjoying her dinner. And Aaron comes down, and they brought her champagne and whatever she wants. And he goes, come on out, let's talk about the fire. There's a little fire pit out back. It's Colorado, so it's snow season, it's cold. And she's a Florida girl, so she's, got the dry eyeballs and the dry skin. As soon as you get off the plane, when you're from Florida, it's humid here. You go anywhere else, Ohio, Northern California, the desert, Arizona, Sonoma, any of those places, is dry. Your eyes dry, your nose cracks, your cheeks dry out, your lips cracked. So he invites her out to the fireplace, and they're sitting there and they're talking a little bit. And she's saying, okay, look, I'm going to work for you, but you can't lie to me. If you lie to me, I quit immediately, I get my money, and I get to go home. He's like, I won't lie to you. And so he goes, look, I got to go home and grade my kids' homework. So I'm going to go. Why don't you stay here and enjoy the fire, finish the champagne, and I'll see you later. And so she thought they were having a good conversation. He kind of ended it abruptly. So she's like, oh, okay. She's taking that like, oh, did I offend him by asking about the trust thing or whatever? So he leaves. And as she's sitting there, she's enjoying the ski slopes and everything all around, people coming and going. It's a busy place. And she's enjoying her champagne. A gator comes up. Now, a gator is a John Deere ATV, an all-terrain vehicle. Like, if you don't know what those are, it's like a four-wheeler, okay? So it's a small vehicle that's made to go up hills and through mud and stuff like that. So it's a gator, but gators are usually, it's like a golf cart, kind of, but made to go in rough areas. And it's got a bed on the back like a pickup truck. So that's what pulls up to the fire pit. And the attendant starts throwing these chunks of wood in the fire. And Jett goes, what is that? It looks like tiles. He goes, yeah. She goes, it doesn't look like it would burn very good. He goes, it doesn't. It's got all this metal stuff in it, and he's thrown it in there. And she realizes that he's got this whole truck bed full of it. And she goes, oh, well, figured, they must be redoing a floor somewhere. So she goes, what's the deal with this stuff? And he goes, well, this was in Mr. Wells's conference room earlier this afternoon. It was his conference table. He ordered it cut up and burned. He's trying to make sure some lady understands he's turning over a new leaf kind of thing. So she's like, holy cow, maybe there's something to this guy after all. So that sets the stage for the adventure. So she and Aaron, at various points, he's given her information. They find out some things are not what they seem, and she's trying to figure out the mystery, and she goes on and she solves that. Now, in that process, she's going back and forth to Florida, between Florida and Colorado. Her next book, which is Killer in the Dark, is she now is part owner of the TV station. She's responsible. She's got like the #1 show, a different station, right? She's finally landed herself back in good standing in TV land. And so, but her heart still belongs to the investigative reporting stuff. So she's going to do a story on this, a guy who owns a nature preserve, a big cat preserve. So big cats are like cougars, jaguars, panthers, lions, tigers, big cats, okay? Well, in Florida, we have, like in various places, like in Colorado, California, they have mountain lions. It's not an African lion, it's an American lion, it's a mountain lion. It's a giant big cat kind of thing, not as big as an African lion. And in Florida, we have the Florida panther. That's part of the puma family, but it is still a big cat. It's not as big as a tiger or a lion. Those things get 600 pounds. Our panthers are smaller than that, but they are dangerous. They don't really like people. And the big problem with the Florida panther is each panther needs a wide territory to hunt and do whatever. They move, like they may go, 200 miles in, say, a week. I don't know what that particular stat is. So she's at this big game preserve, and she's interviewing, the guy's name is Bronson Keenan. He's the owner of the preserve, and he's kind of a troublesome figure, as a lot of these big cat places are. The environmentalists don't like them, animal rights people don't like them, and there's various reasons why. And mostly it comes down to, are you treating these animals the way they should be treated? Now in Keenan's case, he only takes rescues. So this is an abused animal that he's bringing in so it won't be abused, and he's got thousands of acres. Because even though Florida real estate's really expensive, if you go to north central Florida, out in the middle of nowhere, it's pretty cheap. So he's from Australia, and he comes in and he sets up this big preserve, and some of the enclosures are hundreds of acres, okay? So it's a big place. But he's got all these various animals, lions and tigers and pumas and panthers and all this stuff. And the night Jett is there, the night before Jett shows up, a young girl is riding her bike. Her mom owns a bed and breakfast in a small town that's next to the national forest. So it's kind of a little touristy town. They make their money off tourism. It's the beginning of summer, so the beginning of the season. And she makes excuses to go down to the corner store because she likes the boy there, okay? She's shy. She doesn't really talk much to him, and he doesn't really understand that she likes him, so he doesn't talk that much to her either. He's kind of clueless, but he kind of likes her too. And so her friend is putting her up to it, saying, go down, say you're out of bread, and go buy a loaf of bread. It's like $1. Well, she's on a budget. She's not a lot of money, but she figured, I can buy a loaf of bread a couple times a week, and I'll just say we're using it up at the B&B, and there's an excuse for me to be down there talking. He works every night, right? It's his dad's store. So she hops on her bike, and she takes her bike because even though she can drive, getting there and back quickly is not really her goal. If she takes her bike, she can take a shortcut through the forest, and her mom won't know that instead of making a 15-minute round trip, or whatever, say a 30-minute round trip, she can get there quickly and spend 10 or 20 minutes flirting or talking or wanting to talk to him, and then come back. And this is her friend's big idea. Yeah, do that and talk to him. And so she takes a shortcut through the forest at night, and she goes, and she sees him, and she's talking a little bit, and his dad had been out hunting that day. So he goes, hey, I'll hook you up with some deer meat. That's what he was in the back butchering the deer meat when she came in. And she goes, oh, we can't really afford that. And he goes, I'll tell you what, I'll give it to you. You serve it to your guests. The reason she explains is she was having to prepare the B&B, bed and breakfast, like a little hotel, motel. She was having to prepare the bed and breakfast for a big group that was coming in the next day, like a family of 7 or something, I don't know. And so he goes, well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you these little steaks. You guys, when tourists come in from out of town, they like local cuisine. This is fresh caught Florida deer. Our deer are not as big as the stuff you get up north, okay? But not hugely important at this point. So he says, I'll hook you up with a Florida deer. You give them steak and eggs for breakfast. If they like it, you come pay me. If they don't like it, or if it's not a good deal, it's on the house. So that's kind of his way of saying, you got to come back one way or the other to talk to me. So maybe he does like her. So she's in seventh heaven. She grabs her deer meat. She gets on her bike after everything's all done. And now she's riding through the forest at night. And this is actually, we're in the point of view of a predator in the forest. And I don't want to say what kind, because I want to leave you in the dark about that. So it's stalking her, and it's moving along, slinking along, and it attacks her because it attacks her and kills her. And the sheriff who's there the next day is looking at, well, we got the deer meat, maybe that smell, because that's what these Florida panthers eat. And don't forget, Jett Thacker's there interviewing the guy who's got the big cat preserve. So the whole town, well, the sheriff anyway, is thinking, Florida panther hasn't killed a human being in 100 years. And we have one that just killed this girl. And we got a guy over here with a big game preserve who's kind of run afoul from the law once or twice. Maybe one of his animals got loose. I bet that's what it was. This girl's dead now because of it. We need to look into this. So the more they look into, the more problems they start to find, not just at the animal preserve, but in general. And so that's really the basis for the second story, which is called Killer in the Dark. And I was mentioning earlier on a TikTok video, I'm going to wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I mentioned this on an earlier TikTok video that I basically should be able to finish the rough draft tomorrow. The book's going to come in around 75,000 words. I started writing January 2nd, so 6 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever that is. And my thinking is this: after I finish it tomorrow, that's my first draft. My first drafts are pretty clean because I usually sit down today and revise, reread what I wrote yesterday. But even when I write kind of slow. I only write about 1,500 words a day. I can write 3,000 and 5,000. I think I've written more than that in a single day. I think I've written 10,000 over a weekend. And sometimes the mood hits you and you're cranking out good stuff. But usually if you're writing really fast, for me, I'm making more mistakes, and it's not as polished. There's a lot of stuff in my head that I thought were there for that scene, but when I look at it later, what was in my head didn't make it onto the page. So you spend more time revising. So I write a little slower, and each day I revise what I wrote the prior day. It refamiliarizes me with the story, reminds me, how does this character talk? How does that character talk? And I have a bunch of notes over here on the side. Sheriff Maxim, he says things like y'all, and maybe he chews tobacco. He's a fat guy. He's always hooking his thumbs in his belt. So he's got his little quirks. Jett is very erudite. She's very well spoken, and she used to be a lawyer. She's very tenacious, but she's also at the same time got some insecurities. When she was in Colorado, she got dehydrated. The host is inviting you to go live? I thought that's what I was doing. So we got a different host. I'm going to decline you there, bro. Sorry about that, because we're going to be wrapping this up in a second anyway, but I appreciate the offer. So she had a panic attack and she passed out and stuff, but that was really altitude sickness. Now she's having some issues here in Florida, which take place in the store, and she's wondering, maybe there's something wrong with me. That really a small side issue, but point is, she goes through this adventure, and in this one, she's basically by herself. She's off doing a story. So in the first book, we talked about that is what the kind of thing she did, and she talked about this story she had just completed, this investigative reporting story that she just completed. Now we're with her, and it's really just her. So the first book is a little more ensemble, a lot of her boyfriend Aaron, a lot of Rico, other people doing research things for her and with her, a lot of Ashley Wells, Aaron's evil sister. This one is Jett comes in, she's got to partner up with Sheriff Maxim and the ranger, who all this stuff takes place in the National Forest, so she has to work with the ranger. The ranger's name is Mara. And they become friends, and they're kind of investigating it together. And so Aaron and Rico and everybody else are really in the background. Aaron's daughters were relatively not prominent, but they had a good supporting role in the first one. they're almost non-existent in this one because Jett's by herself in Florida. They get mentioned. And so that's where this particular story has gone. And I think in the next one, I'm going to bring much more of the family element back. Family as in Jett with her now boyfriend, Aaron, his grown daughters who are like 17, getting ready to graduate high school, his sister who is on her way to jail, as it turns out now. And so Aaron, very, 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 very small role. Rico, small role in this book, even though they're fun characters. This was really Jett's vehicle. I think readers are going to like that better for that reason. But I think if I did too many stories like that, they would say, well, we miss the family, we miss the twins, we miss all this other stuff. So Aaron's going to play a much bigger role. I can't tell you how, but you'll like it. And it's going to be a very challenging role for Jett, a challenging role for me to write too, I got to admit, on the next book. This one is just Jett, a tour de force kind of thing. And one of the things, I was finishing up one of my prior books, I don't remember which one, and I kind of had, the main character was a woman, and she kind of went through all these troubles, and then at the end, it gets resolved, right? She somebody saves the day, and it was kind of like, almost like the guy kind of stepped in at the last second, kind of helped her save the day, or almost maybe saved the day for her. And I thought, you know what, she did 99.9% of the work, and he's going to get the glory, and I said, I got to rewrite that. So I rewrote it to where she basically saved the day and all was well. Okay, and as I was finishing up this one, I thought, I've got my villain, I've got my hero, and I was trying to think about the way to wrap it up. I had the ending, but I wanted to make sure that it wrapped up where the hero didn't, my hero in this book, I want her to be very pure. She makes mistakes, and she's cognizant of her mistakes, and she has some issues in her background, and she's tempted to make mistakes here and there. But at the very end, when it's that big climax scene, when the hero's going to vanquish the villain, I originally had it to where somebody kind of stepped in and got in the middle and kind of saved the day. And I was like, I can't do that. So I figured she's got to do it. She's got to save herself. So I figured out that, and I thought, oh, man, here I got her doing something kind of bad to save herself. I don't want that either. So that really took probably 3 days to figure out, okay, she's going to do this. She's going to get herself out by doing this thing. And it has to be a noble thing that she's trying to do. Almost like, I think I could probably say this, almost like at the last second, the villain is on the ropes and she's going to try to help the villain, and it was the villain's own evilness that prevented the help to happen. And so even though Jett was on the ropes and now was able to turn the tables, but now the villain's going to have something bad happen, Jett extends her hand, metaphorically, and does like the super right thing. Sadly, it doesn't work out. All right, Jill, well, thanks for stopping by. Glad, I know it's late there, so we're going to wrap this up anyway. Listen, this was a lot of fun.